Welcome, guys, to another Nurses Outside the Box. And today we're really with a very special entrepreneur. Joey Ferry is here. So, Joey, welcome to the show with Nurse Outside the Box. It's so awesome to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let me introduce you a little bit and see what you've done. Over 12 years of experience in nurses and in business development. And then I love that with your partner Taofiki, you've also created health resources, right? Is that the name of it? Frontier
Yes.
Health Resources, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to read it. With a mission to create innovative products that patients will love and healthcare providers will find indispensable. I love that. The company is selling products. The top selling product is SafeSeizure, an award-winning patented self-inflating seizure pad designed to replace the unfortunate standard of care of linen and tape. Oh my goodness, yes, that's so true. And you also won the award recently, the ANA 2020 ANA Award for innovation. So awesome! Congratulations! Yeah. That's phenomenal. I think that's really good.
No, thank you so much. Yeah. So it's been a fun ride. We are fairly new into the nurse innovation journey between my partner Taofiki and I. As you mentioned, I've been a nurse for going on 13 years now, and I've done all different levels of nursing. I currently still sit as a nursing supervisor or hospital administrative supervisor for our hospital part-time. And so, but I've done a bunch of different levels of nursing, and it wasn't until recently that him and I sort of joined forces and actually went on this road of nurse entrepreneurship. Prior to that, I've been an entrepreneur, I think, my entire life. And so prior to that, I almost kept these two elements of my life separated. I thought one day I would come up with a different business completely unrelated to healthcare or nursing, and found out that I was sort of not giving either of my two passions the energy that they needed. And the day I met Tofiq, the next day we started a business together. So it's been a fun journey, and maybe you have some questions that'll kind of get into that, but that's kind of where I've been and how I'm here. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd love it. What makes you a nurse outside the box? That's always what I ask first. So what do you consider? Why do you consider yourself a nurse outside the box?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely would consider myself and Tofiq and any nurse that is passionate about innovation. I think that we're all in our own ways nurses outside of the box. We continuously, whether you're working acute care or case management or outskilled nursing facility, every nurse in some way or another thinks outside the box every single moment of their shift, of their day. And so I think the difference of someone that can say, I am a nurse outside of the box, thinking outside of the box, is someone that's actually just realized it and identified that, oh, wow, we are thinking outside of the box all the time. And I think that's where I am recently. Again, over the last couple of years and in the starting of our new business, it's realizing what nurses are capable of and how creative we are at the core, and then sort of tapping into that. And now I can't turn it off. It doesn't matter if it's a Foley catheter or an IV line or a call button, everything. I'm trying to figure out, how can we make this better from the perspective of a nurse, not just an engineer or someone that wants to add a new LED light or a new bell or whistle to something. From a nurse in our workflow, how can we make this better? And I think that's sort of when you really start to get into the excitement and the self-proclamation of, I am a nurse outside the box. So
I love that. Can you take us on your journey a little bit about why you started the company that you're in right now together with Taofiki, and what were some of the hurdles that you had to overcome during that whole process?
Sure. So the reason why Tofiq and I started the business is actually, I take zero credit for that. Again, I was in my own world almost, and I was trying to do these other things outside of nursing, but I've always been interested in technology and interested in entrepreneurship, of course. And so one night, the very first night that I met Taofiki, I happened to be floating to his unit. I used to be in the float pool, so I would go all over the hospital. And him and I just got to talking about different technologies, not necessarily healthcare related. In fact, it was a smartwatch that we were really focused in on. And I was deciding whether to buy this smartwatch, what are the other ones on the market. That quickly led us into talking about different technologies just in general in the world that we live in, and how hospitals, the frustration that hospitals are 10 years behind. As soon as you step out of the door and those glass doors open and you walk to the parking lot, you get in your car, your phone connects to your car, you're listening to a podcast automatically on the way home. And it's like, how come we don't have that level of automation or that, or just basic elements of technology that we on our day-to-day are expected. But when we walk in the hospital, you know, we're 10 years behind, if not more sometimes. So that was the frustration. That morning, Taofiki, he pulled me aside in the parking lot and he said, again, this is the first time he and I had ever met. He pulls me aside in the parking lot and says, hey, I have this idea I've been working on and I'm ready to pitch it to the hospital. Would you mind taking a look at it and let me know what you think?
Wow.
And I was like, all right, I appreciate that. So we went to a coffee shop. He pulls out this packaged, it was all packaged in a Ziploc thing, had a fake barcode on there. It was, in his eyes, it was ready to ship. And he had made an attempt to solve the problem of the seizure pad issue that us and every other hospital in the country, at least, has to deal with, which is using blankets to wrap with tape on the bed rails to protect patients if they were to have a seizure. It's frustrating, but we all do it. We've been doing it for who knows how long. You ask any nurse. And so he had made a genuine attempt to solve this problem. And the idea that the fact that he had gone this far in trying to solve the solution on his own was very inspiring to me. But right out of the gate, I can see some room for improvement with this particular product. Not only that, as I was genuinely intrigued by him as an individual taking these steps to go further as an entrepreneur and as a problem solver. And he's a nurse. So I said, I honestly think we can make this a lot better. And so I said, if you're willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with you. And I think we can come up with a full product. His product was kind of solving half of the problem. And I thought that we can do a little bit better. So he was kind of up to hear what I had to say. We spent, I think, that whole day just kind of working out different design elements, drawing things out on napkins. And by the end of that day, I think we had almost exactly what we have today. A couple minor tweaks and whatnot, but and that's kind of how we got started. So that's that long answer. And then as far as challenges along the way, there's so many, I have to be honest. I think though, and him and I think he would agree with me as well, most of our challenges have come within ourselves. And oftentimes we convince ourselves along the way that either something is too difficult, it's too time consuming, there's just too much to it, or someone's going to take my idea, or this has already been thought of. Or, you know, there's just, you can get away with, you can get so far ahead of yourself as far as negatively thinking when it comes to starting something, because you're trying to think of Z and there's everything in between. You're going from A to Z and you're trying to think of Z. Of course, there's a million things in between that our brains can kind of try and fill in the blanks and say, this is way too difficult. So first and foremost, what we decided is we're just going to go from A to B. That's it. That's it. If you just think about A to B, you will at least be able to take that step, because it's not daunting. It's not overwhelming. Right. It's, you know, it can be, well, are we going to be an LLC, or are we going to be a corporation, or are we going to be that sounds pretty complicated, but if you only focus on that, it's not as bad but then you start to add on, well, how are we going to deal with supply chain? How are we going to deal with, inventory and deliveries? And then it starts to get a little bit overwhelming, but that's kind of been the key for us. And then just time management. As I mentioned before, I still work part-time. He also still works as well. And we both have families. We're both married. I have 2 kids. He has 1. So finding that balance for time with our families as well has always been sort of a challenge.
I can totally see that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's balancing the two, right? Because I think, yeah, I see that you're still working and then you have this entrepreneurship too. Where do you see it going for you? Where do you guys want to go with the company? And yeah, where do you see it going in the future, in the near future?
Sure. So I honestly see that nurse innovation is something that will take me into the future, regardless of whether it's with this particular company, whether it's in my own, like in a hospital setting, or or just me personally. I think this is something that I've committed myself to, and it's something
Mhm.
that I don't think is going to go away. It's only going to get stronger as far as nurse innovation and entrepreneurship. And you're starting to see it kind of everywhere. So for me personally, I see this 100% driving my career one way or another. If it's entrepreneurship, or if it's as a registered nurse, or a mixture of the two, which is ideally where I see it, a woven sort of entrepreneurship, registered nurse career path. But that's where I see it for me personally going. And as far as the business, we're a fairly young company, and we have a couple of products that are doing fairly well, but there's just so much more to open up and expand and learn, that it's really hard to answer that as far as the business itself is concerned. But we're just excited to be along for the ride, and we're early on in that ride. And so, yeah.
Yeah. We're in the middle of COVID right now still. Has that affected your business at all in a major way, or has?
We thought that it was actually, we were terrified that it was going to. So in fact, right as things were starting to pick up in here in the United States, as far as, and clearly everyone knows that, the virus started in China, and it's kind of worked its way around the world. And so we were terrified, like, what is this going to do for overall supply chain logistics? And so we ordered twice as much inventory as we ever would have felt comfortable with. But we were so scared that that we would be without the ability to be able to access our supply chains. And so we found a warehouse, and we ordered amounts that we were uncomfortable with, but it's worked out, actually, because on the flip side of that, and our own personal fears of COVID and how it would affect us, it didn't affect us as much as we thought it would. Other than not being able to go to hospitals, do in-services, and actually showcase the product, and meet with managers and directors and those sorts of things, it hasn't slowed down necessarily our abilities to speak with these hospitals because of technologies like Zoom. We do virtual in-services where we'll get someone on the other end, and we'll have a live demo on our end of product, and then we'll ship them a product ahead of the meeting. And so they'll have it to play with. And so we do a lot of virtual in-servicing as well. And so we've sort of figured out little ways to navigate around it. And thankfully, we're a small business. We have a very small product line. And so I imagine for other big companies that there is some major struggles, but thankfully it hasn't affected us too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I love it. I love it. What do you say for other nurses? Because I'm sure there are some nurses who are listening. And like, guys, if you're listening to this and you like it, please share it with another nurse, because we'd love to have more of this coming out. But what would you say? Well, first of all, how can nurses get in touch with you? We'd love to. We're also going to put your website down below.
Sure.
But I would love to know that. And second is, what would you say to a nurse who is really innovative and wants to do something but doesn't know exactly? What would you say?
Sure. That question gets asked a lot, and it's generally after we speak or someone sees what we're doing. We do get nurses a lot of times that find the courage to step sort of out of their box or off that ledge and say, hey, I have this idea, but I don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. For me, what we always say is you just have to start, whether that is taking that extra step to reach out to people that you feel confident that you can talk to and share your story with. And even if it's just to get motivation to get you to do that next step. Again, if we're going from A to Z, of course you have to think about Z, because that would make A to Z, you have to determine if A to Z is even worth it. And you have to be realistic. So of course you have to think about Z initially, but once you've decided on, and you've said, all right, I'm going to, I'm going to dig my feet in, and I'm going to go for this. Just concentrate on B, and then from B, concentrate on C, and from B, C, and so on and so on. And it's not necessarily in a specific order like that, but the idea is to just take small steps at a time. Find someone that you're comfortable with sharing. And if you're going to do it alone, I honestly feel like building a team, because I work well in teams, and I really work well off of others. Like I have an ability to motivate others, but as well as feed off of others' energy. And so for me, that was important to know about myself. And if you're someone that does want to work by yourself, at least have somebody, even if it's a family member or whatnot, that you can sort of use to kind of keep you going. And yeah, you just have to set aside even the smallest bits of time, because even an hour a week is progress. So, and I'd lie to you if I told you that from day one, every day we're putting in 12 hours a day into our business. That's unrealistic, and it's not real. So there's been weeks at a time where I'd call up Tofiq and say, man, I'm sorry, man, I've been out of it for a week. I haven't done a single thing. And sometimes we need that to reset. And the idea though is identify it, and then just do the tiniest thing. Open up an email, reply to an email, and then be done. But it kind of gets you back on track, and figuring out little ways to get yourself to continuously move forward. I think that's it. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Yeah.
I love that. Small steps, right? I love
Absolutely.
the morning time for that reason, just small steps at a time. So I love that.
That's right. Yep.
What would you say to nurses? We're finishing up this conversation, because we could talk for hours, but I'd love to hear, what would you say to a nurse right now who is thinking innovative, who's thinking entrepreneurial? What would you say? What would be a tip besides what you already said about one step at a time, right? Anything else that you would want to say?
I would say that understanding if you're not necessarily someone who's been down an entrepreneurship road before, understand that failures are going to happen. You're going to feel like you just didn't do it correctly, or you don't know how, but that's okay. That's absolutely, anyone that's been down this road before knows, like that just comes with the territory. And then not convincing yourself to stop or otherwise, or be afraid, and just know that there's a million resources out there, a million. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do, whether it's legal, whether it's financial, accounting, it doesn't matter what it is. There's someone out there with some experience, and they can help you with those little things. And then my last bit of advice is find someone that is willing to talk to you as almost like a mentor, someone that you respect, and you can ask questions to, that are very open and honest with you. And ideally they've been down similar roads, and they can sort of point you in a direction. But even if it's just to get an idea out and out of your mind and into the world, whether that be a question or a frustration, or a celebration. Sometimes a lot of us don't even have people that we can just say, I can't believe it. Hey, this nursing, this CNO called me back, and she's interested in this. And so it's like, great, awesome. And so I personally have a couple different individuals that I've really opened myself up to. I by no means am I someone that can, I'm not like the best mentor in the world, as far as like, I haven't done this a million times. I haven't run a Fortune 500 company, but what I do have is I'm open, and I enjoy conversation. I love motivating people. And so there's a few different people that I stay in close contact with that I met, via LinkedIn or just in our process. And so it's really exciting for me. And I think that helps. I think that does. Other people see other nurses doing what they're doing, and it can be motivating. So, and don't get caught up. Sorry, really long answer to your question.
Okay, it's good. It's all good.
The other thing is, just don't get caught up in thinking that you have to do something that is like world changing. You're going to create this artificial intelligence, machine learning, new application that's going to revolutionize nursing and healthcare forever. It doesn't have to be. It can be something
Right.
as simple as some seizure pads.
Yeah.
You know, and so don't feel like we have to be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, because there's so many other things in nursing and healthcare that need attention and they need to be improved. And so, you know, even if it's not some crazy new app, it's fine. It's just as important, and understanding that as well. Because sometimes that discourages people. You know, there's some really big players in nurse innovation that are raising multi-millions of dollars with their companies. And sometimes that can set a precedence or set the bar so high that it can even discourage young entrepreneurs or nurse innovators from even thinking, oh, there's no way I can ever come up with some technology like that. So just forget it. But just understand, we came up with as simple of a technology as you possibly can think of. And it's, you know, and we're right there in the beginning stages too. So you also can do it. And we want to see people like that. We want to see nurses take hold of innovation and, you know, and really drive healthcare. It's what we want to see. So beautiful.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful interview. I think
Sorry.
you're doing something amazing.
Sorry, I'm just doing this is what I'm doing. So I apologize. I hope it's I hope it's at least useful rambling, but I appreciate you having, I appreciate you having us on, or myself on, and you know, we're excited for you supporting this profession and the journey of nurse innovation as well. So thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you, because a lot of what you're saying is so you could feel your passion for nursing, because you're right. There's a lot of people who do a lot of things, but we need nurses, right? And I love that you're doing so. Thanks so much. It was awesome. For everybody else, please comment, please share this. This is something we want to get out as much as possible, because we want more nurses being innovative and seizure. And I love that, actually. That's probably what I want to end with, is what you said, right? Once you start thinking innovatively, you can't turn it off.
You cannot. Now be careful now, because it can be a curse. It can be a curse, but no, I think we should all get there, because we're doing it anyways. So
that's right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joey, and we'll talk later.
Thank you so much.
Okay.